Good morning, everyone. This meeting is being recorded, just so you know. It will be posted online when this is done. And that way you can go back and refer to it if need be. My name's Rebecca Shaw-Quinones. I'm the Tourism Grant Supervisor here at the Department of Commerce. We have Amanda Wilkie on. She's our tech support. And Rachel Young, who doesn't have a camera today, is our main driver. She is the grant manager specialist for these grants, as well as Crystal Little Owl, who will have a couple of them as well. And she's on as a guest, same as you guys. So I'm going to share my screen with the presentation and turn off my camera, and then I'll let Rachel proceed from there.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. Appreciate it. We're having a little difficulty this morning, a little technical difficulty, so I apologize for not being on camera. But normally we turn off the camera during the meeting anyway, so not a big deal, I don't think. So hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. As Rebecca mentioned, I'm Rachel Young, a tourism grant specialist, and I'm joined today by a couple of my team members that already introduced themselves, Rebecca Shaw-Quinones and Amanda Wilkie. Before we begin, we'll go over some quick housekeeping. This webinar will be recorded, as Rebecca mentioned, and made available on demand on the Tourism Development webpage. We will have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation, so you're welcome to drop any questions in the chat as we go through the presentation, and we'll circle back to them during the Q&A. We won't be stopping in the middle of the discussion to answer those questions. During the presentation part of this webinar, we'll turn our cameras off, as we already mentioned, but we'll turn it back on during the Q&A. All right, we're going to jump right in. The next slide. What is the purpose of the Tourism Development Grant? It's definitely everything you see listed on this slide, but what is the purpose when we take it down to the bare bones? If we do that, the purpose and intent of this program is for communities to identify what makes their community or communities a place for people to want to visit. What makes them stop and stay? What makes them purchase coffee from the local coffee shop? What drives them to seek out your community's trailheads to explore nature? What are the best places to stop for a bite after a long day of floating or fishing? What local business merch takes visitors from window shopping to "I have to have that" and leads them into a deeper conversation about the local artist? How are they seeing the heart and soul of your communities? Because if it's a great place to live, it's also a great place for visitors. An example that I want to share with you is about a traveler who was out exploring, stopped at a rest area that was combined with a visitor center. And they asked the visitor center staff where they could go for some food. The visitor center staff then provided directions to a farm and explained what they would find there. The traveler discovered local farm-made products, syrups, foods, among other goodies. They might never have found this gem without that moment of connection and shared knowledge. So think with your communities, how can we take an attraction, an activity, or an experience and connect it to other business offerings in the area? How can you feed the traveler's curiosity by also putting something in front of them that they didn't expect and that intrigues them? So who is eligible, and how do you know if you're eligible, and what is a community? So a community is defined as a group of towns, counties, and or organizations within a destination that has prioritized tourism as an economic development strategy and are interested in working collaboratively. A group of communities can be based on various factors, including geographic location, shared values, cultural identity, and or common tourist asset development. To determine if your community is urban or overvisited, we encourage you to check out the map of the urban and overvisited designations. If your community is not listed in these designations, it is either rural and or undervisited. This map can also be found on the Tourism Development Grant webpage. And we'll show you that map right now. Perhaps.
One moment.
There we go. So as mentioned, this is also on the tourism grant webpage. You'll be able to look that up at any time. It's important to note that the applicant needs to be the community or organization applying for this funding opportunity. They will enter into a contract with Commerce and will receive the funding for this program and be the fiscal agent. An awarded applicant then becomes the grantee. The grantee organization requests reimbursements, submits reports, and communicates with Commerce staff about projects. Is your community ready? Please take a moment to review the slide and determine if your community is ready. And the next slide has more details as far as community readiness. Thank you. So Big Timber had previously planned a big project in town, the Sheep Herder Square project. As part of the application, the applicants were able to show that the planning and architectural drawings were complete as a result of the outreach within the community. The applicants added other projects to the overall vision for the grant, then known as the pilot grant. In addition to the square, they're going to add new lighting downtown and other Main Street upgrades, murals, and pedestrian safety features. We'll go to eligible uses of funds now. Generally, funding can be utilized for the following expenses on an annual basis: infrastructure upgrades and construction that leads to an enhanced visitor experience, travel in accordance with the state travel and per diem rates at the time travel occurred for a grantee and or a grantee representative, costs associated with renting a facility for advisory committee meetings and workshops and events, reasonable costs for light refreshments and beverages at meetings and workshops, purchase of tourism-related data, primary research to support data-driven planning, project-related planning documents, lead agency professional services, procurement-related costs, contracted professional services directly related to community engagement, planning, implementation, and execution, and up to a maximum of 15% of annual funds may be budgeted for direct grant administration. And all of this information can be found in the guidelines for this grant. So please refer to that as well with questions. So here is a list of the funding and how that works. Again, this is all in the guidelines and laid out pretty clearly there. So now we'll look at ineligible uses of funds. This is not a comprehensive list of ineligible uses. Along with ongoing or monthly operational costs, things like promotional items, the purchase of real estate property, or operating equipment is not eligible for grant funds. Also, any uses prohibited by the contract, which you would sign with the department, any uses prohibited by the guidelines or other department directives, any uses prohibited by Montana or federal law, and any project task and or work not approved in the contracted scope of work and budget. So again, we're gonna ask you to look at the guidelines for those ineligible expenses. Tips for success for this program. For this funding opportunity, it is required the community have a cross-sectored advisory committee of 5 members. Stakeholders will vary from community to community, but an advisory committee should be able to help unite diverse public and private interest from the community. The advisory committee is instrumental in ensuring the success of the projects and the community outreach. Match is not required. However, our second webinar will be addressing other possible funding opportunities that may be utilized in conjunction with this program. Tourism readiness indicators are available on the Tourism Development Grant webpage for further review. These can help a community determine if they are ready to submit an application or if they want to take more time to build a comprehensive and diverse advisory committee that can begin to meet and identify tourism assets and tourism product development within the community. And we did speak about that a little bit earlier when we looked at if your community is ready. The next slide is the budget template, and this is an example. It is also on our website and is required and must be completed with the application. It's in the grants and loan, it is in the grants and loans portal and will be available December 15th. You will need to download the template, fill it out, and upload it as an attachment in your application. It's an Excel document, so it should auto-calculate your numbers for you. Number files cannot be opened, so please save it as a PDF if you are a Mac user. So on the budget template that's on the website, there is an example page, and then there's a second page, and it is called blank budget. So there's a second tab. You can complete a skeleton outline of a budget for years 3, 4, and 5, but that's not required at this time. So this is the scope of work. So it's important to note that each budget line will correspond to a budget line on the scope of work. So the budget line will be like in the first one, in that other slide, it talks about hiring the firm. So that is going to be your first budget line, hire the firm, and give us a date range of how that's going to work. Okay, round 3 will officially open Monday, December 15th, and will close on Thursday, January 22nd at 11:59 p.m. To apply, you can search for the funding within the Montana Grants and Loans portal or visit the Tourism Development Program webpage and click the Apply Here button to take you directly to the application. This program does not auto-save. Please save your work periodically to avoid losing your progress. You have about 5 weeks to get these applications in, but it's always a good idea to ensure you don't wait until the last minute, because that tends to be the time that technology fails, as we dealt with this morning here. Tourism staff are available for assistance Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Commerce staff recommends applicants download the application, the scope of work template, the budget template, and advisory committee member form. Complete all those documents prior to submitting the official application. This generally helps the application process run more smoothly. We have all the resources that you need on the webpage, including the guidelines, the application, the scoring criteria, and other required supporting documents for the application. The scoring criteria will show you exactly what the review committee will be reviewing in the application. We're going to jump right over to the, we're going to jump over to the Tourism Development Program webpage now. Give us just a second to get that done, please.
There you go.
Thank you. So again, your dates are here for the grant opening and closing. And under resources for applicants, that's where you're going to find the program guidelines, the application, how you get to Montana Grants and Loans portal, the scope of work for years 1 and 2, the year 1 and 2 budget, the advisory committee member form, the signatory certification form, the application scoring criteria. We've also included on there the frequently asked questions and the map that we looked at earlier for the urban and overvisited locations. So those are all the resources that you need for filling out this grant and checking the guidelines and the application and getting that all completed ahead of time. Okay, we'll hop back to our PowerPoint now. Go to the next slide, please. For just a second, we'll look into the future to highlight the next big steps for awarded communities. The details for this will be ironed out, but we want to ensure the communities will be ready to go for the next step, contracting. So again, this webinar was recorded and links will be available on the Tourism Development Program webpage that we just looked at. These will also be sent out in the Commerce Weekly Roundup and in the Commerce Facebook page as well. If you're not already subscribed to the Weekly Roundup, we're dropping that link in the chat so you can subscribe to receive notification for those webinar registration links as well as notifications for all of the other programs and funding opportunities available within the Department of Commerce. So this will conclude the PowerPoint presentation for today. We're going to turn our cameras back on, except for me, and we will open things up for the question and answer session. If you have any questions, please make sure to send those to tourismgrants@mt.gov.
Thank you, Rachel. Our first question says, with match not being required, if we list match in the other sources column, if awarded, will we need to provide documentation of any of those funds with reimbursement requests?
Excuse me. In the application, when you're applying and you want to include match as a bonus, so to speak, you want to put in the award letter or a letter from the funding agent that says, yes, we have this, we've awarded this to this community or this group. And then when you do a reimbursement, you would say this much, we're going to ask for this much from the Montana Tourism Development Funds and this much from our other funds, but you don't have to show us your information. You don't have to show us your accounting for the other money. You just need to put it in the column. So let's say you have $1,000 receipt and you want to charge $800 of it to Montana Tourism Development and $200 to your other grant. You'll put $800 in that budget column and you'll get this after, upon award, you'll get this other budget tracker and 200 in the other column. And that's how we would pay it. Does that answer your question?
I will let you know if there's a follow-up. All right. The next one says, with match, nope, sorry. Couldn't find the scope of work form here for years 3, 4, 5 on the website. Should we just copy the format of years 1 and 2 to the template?
No, in the budget on the budget form, it's going to have a tab for 3, 4, and 5, and it's basically your best guesstimate. So it'll be listed there. So say you have a big project and by year 3, you hope to be in construction. So on your 3, 4, 5 budget tab, it'll say construction, whatever other costs are there. Then we'll know that's going to be your scope of work, but we won't ask you to detail that till we get closer to year 3.
Thank you. Next one, the readiness indicators say we should have a cohesive plan for a project that aligns with the intent of the program. How detailed do those plans need to be for the application process? We have projects identified in public plans, but don't have more detailed planning, design, and engineering needed to move to implementation. We're hoping to use the MTDGP to fund that more detailed work along with implementation.
That's a great question, Matthew. The being able to show the details of those community plans that show that there's already support is what we need in the application. If you had, similar to the big timber example, if you had engineering already done, that's a bonus. I mean, you don't get points for that, but it just shows you're even more ready. But the fact that it's already called out in your community plans, there will be a space for you to upload those sections of those plans into your application. So yes, you can do the more detailed engineering reports, PERs with your grant money.
Great, thank you. I'm not sure if this one was already answered, but I'll ask it anyway. If awarded, will there be an evaluation method that we need to plan for in the application?
I'm not sure I understand that question because
so if you're still on, Sarah, if you could elaborate, that'd be great. We'll go ahead and move on to the next one. I see that funding can't be used to purchase real property. Does that also apply to leasing property or paying for an easement to allow for implementation of an eligible project?
another good question. That would have to, it depends. And I hate ambiguity like that, but it depends on the project and the lease. So in a prior example of somebody that they're going to do some work on a railroad lease, it's a 100-year lease. So we are saying yes to that, but I had to take it to our legal team. So that would be something I have to take to the legal team.
Thank you. Sarah says, we're working with partner museums in different communities and tourism regions. So which one should we choose to include a letter of support from?
That's a great question. We would want, you can submit up to 4 letters of support. So you could get your different regions, but you are, geez, I don't know, whichever one's your main focus, if there is one. If you're planning, say, we're gonna improve the museum in Helena first, and I'm just saying that because our museum just opened, but and then we're gonna go to some of these other ones. I would say get something from the city of Helena. So we want something from the city or the town or the community where the projects are taking place. So you do have 4. So if you have 4 communities, you could also do it that way.
Gotcha. Thank you. If a city is the fiscal agent for our community, are projects limited to city boundaries? Can projects be completed in the larger community area if the city is the fiscal agent?
Boy, that's a good one. If they're okay with it, I think we would be okay with it. The city would have its own rules about that. Is what I think.
Thank you. Wondering if we need to plan ahead for any evaluation methods that might be part of the grant agreement, like costs for surveys if required.
Surveys, we do partner with the ITRR, which is the Tourism Information Bureau at the University at Missoula, and they will help with surveys, community surveys, and that's part of the grant. I don't know if that's what you're asking. And then can the same organization apply for the grant and the economic event grant? Yes, because an event is an event. So what this grant is for a long-term infrastructure. So let's say you're going to build trails with some bathrooms and an ADA sidewalk to get there. That's what this grant can help with. And then your event grant might be your first big event at those trails. I hope that is a distinction.
Great, thank you. If we're working on a project that consists of our downtown, how can we show that our downtown businesses support the project without overloading letters of support?
We will only take the first 4 letters, so putting up 20 doesn't help. But we don't have a way to stop that. So if you, I would suggest you get a letter or some kind of letter that the different businesses can support. I mean, that can all sign the same way.
Great, thank you. That is currently the last question. We could hang around for a little bit longer, see if anyone has any more.
I want to get back to the scope of work for
Sure.
3 through 5. So the answer is there's no scope of work form. It's going to be what you put on the budget form.
And if there are further questions, you can always email us. Okay, we have one more here. If we are the fiscal agent, would all invoices need to be directed to us and paid directly by us, not by the partners and then submitted by us for reimbursement?
It could go either way. So we're the fiscal agents. So what they would do is they would give you the invoices and you would put the draw information together and send it in. And then you would put that money back out to your partners. They would not interact with us directly.
Thank you. If 2 projects from the same community apply, do they cancel each other out? Good
They
question.
do not, however, 2 projects from the same community. The point is that the whole community is working together on this big money grant. And so we would look at it that way. So if there's 2 different big projects going on and they don't want to try and work together, chances of both of them being funded are very low.
Thank you. Are marketing and branding an eligible use of funding?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
However, we do not pay for website hosting and development.
Great. If the project involves outright purchase of materials, such as a display case or lumber to build an exhibit, does the fiscal agent purchase those materials directly, then essentially gift them to the museum or organization?
No, they can buy it and then give you the invoice to send in to us.
Great. Currently, no other questions.
I did drop the email address into the chat where you can answer or ask more questions and that's that's the email you want to contact. That's going to go to Rachel and me and some other people here in the department.
Great. We have one other question. Could you go back and explain website creation and how it fits into the funding?
Website creation. Okay, so a contracted marketing team could create a website for you, and that can be reimbursed by the Montana Tourism Development Grant. However, web hosting cannot be. So there has to be some long-term planning for the maintenance of using that website. Same with oh, never mind. I'll stop there.
Thank you. That is all. Oh, it says, so the email again is tourismgrants@mt.gov.
And I apologize. I only accidentally sent it just to the host. Here it is again.
All right, I see no other questions.
On behalf of Rachel, Crystal, and myself, go ahead, Rachel.
I was just going to say, I just want to say thank you so much for attending. I hope this was informational to you. If you have questions, please use the email. I want to say thank you to Amanda and Rebecca for running this. I apologize for the technical glitches, but we'll get it figured out. But we thank you for joining us. Again, this will be on the website, this recording, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.
Have a great day.